It wasn't a strategy. It was greed with a spreadsheet attached. I had Bitcoin. It was growing. But other coins were growing faster, so I did what I told myself was a smart, well-researched move. And for a moment, it worked. I converted a third of my Bitcoin into it. 6 weeks later, I converted back. I had less Bitcoin than I started with, not less in dollar terms. Less Bitcoin. The thing I was supposed to be accumulating. I'm sats. This is episode 6 of I Learned This the Hard Way, and this is where I got it wrong. Let me tell you how it started, because it did not start with recklessness. It started with something that felt entirely reasonable. I had been holding Bitcoin for about 8 months. The price had gone up, come down, and gone up again. I was comfortable with the volatility. I understood what I owned and why I owned it. And then I started paying attention to what else was happening in the crypto market. There was a particular token that kept appearing in the communities I was reading. People were posting returns of 40, 60, sometimes 100% in a matter of weeks. There was a narrative around it, a use case that sounded credible, a roadmap, a white paper. I spent a weekend researching it and convinced myself I understood it well enough to invest. I converted a third of my Bitcoin into this token. The first 2 weeks were extraordinary. The token went up significantly. I watched the value of that portion of my portfolio climb in a way that Bitcoin, at that particular moment, simply was not matching. I felt smart. I felt like I had spotted something early. I started checking the price constantly, not with anxiety, but with satisfaction. Then something shifted. I am not sure what triggered it. A broader market move, a piece of news I may have misunderstood, or simply the natural cycle of speculative assets attracting attention and then losing it. The price started falling. Not dramatically at first, a few percent, then more. I told myself it was a temporary dip. I had done my research. The fundamentals were still there. The fundamentals were not there. The fundamentals had never been there in the way I thought they were. What I had done my research on was the narrative around the token, the community, the roadmap, the white paper language that I had read as substance but was largely aspiration dressed up as technical detail. I had not understood the token. I had understood the story about the token. Those are very different things. The price kept falling. Over the following 6 weeks, it lost most of its value. I held through most of it, waiting for the recovery that did not come. When I eventually converted back into Bitcoin, I had significantly less Bitcoin than I had started with. Not just in dollar terms, in actual Bitcoin terms. The amount of Bitcoin I held had decreased because I had chased something else during the period when Bitcoin itself had continued to appreciate. Here's the thing I want to be direct about, because I think this is the part most people do not say clearly enough. I did not lose money because I was stupid. I lost money because I was overconfident in my ability to evaluate something I did not actually understand. There is a meaningful difference between researching a narrative and understanding an asset. And in the altcoin space, where projects are often early stage, where white papers describe ambition rather than reality, and where communities are structurally incentivized to promote their own holdings, the gap between those two things is enormous. Bitcoin is different in a specific way that took me losing money to fully appreciate. Bitcoin has no founder who can change direction, no company behind it that can pivot or fail, no pre-mine that enriches early insiders, no roadmap that can be quietly abandoned. It has been running the same way, doing the same thing, for over 15 years. The track record is the evidence. Most altcoins are asking you to bet on a promise. Bitcoin is asking you to evaluate a history. That does not mean altcoins are all scams. Some projects have genuine utility. But for a beginner trying to build their first meaningful position, the asymmetry of risk is brutal. When altcoins fall, they often fall much further than Bitcoin, and recover much more slowly if they recover at all. The token I bought is worth a fraction of what it was when I sold. Bitcoin, over the same period, is significantly higher. The opportunity cost is the thing that still sits with me. Every period I spent watching that token's price was a period I was not accumulating Bitcoin. Every dollar I lost in the conversion was a dollar that could have been compounding in an asset I actually understood. Here's what I took from this and what I want you to take from it too. The question to ask before putting money into anything is not, could this go up? Everything could go up. The question is, do I understand this well enough to hold it when it goes down? If the honest answer is no, that is the answer. For most beginners, Bitcoin is the only asset where that question has a reliable yes attached to it. Not because Bitcoin is guaranteed to perform, it is not, but because it is the one asset in this space with a long enough track record, a clear enough purpose, and a well understood enough risk profile that a beginner can form a genuine conviction rather than just a hope. I learned that by losing some of what I had built, you do not have to. Here is the short version. I converted a third of my Bitcoin into an altcoin because the returns looked better in the short term. I lost a significant portion of that position. When I converted back into Bitcoin, I had less Bitcoin than I started with, and Bitcoin had continued to appreciate while I was gone. The mistake was not chasing returns. It was believing I understood something I had only researched at the narrative level. There is a difference between understanding a story about an asset and understanding the asset itself. Altcoins are not all worthless, but for a beginner, the risk asymmetry is severe. They fall harder and recover slower, and the opportunity cost of not holding Bitcoin during that time compounds the loss. The question before buying anything is not, could this go up? It is, do I understand this well enough to hold it when it goes down? If the answer is no, that is your answer. If you want to understand what actually makes Bitcoin different from every other cryptocurrency, not just in performance but in structure and purpose, the Bitcoin versus crypto video covers exactly that. Watch that next. Stack smart, stay curious. See you in the next stack.